When Dr. Alex Rivera crash-landed on Europa, he thought surviving the crash was the hard part. He was wrong. The real nightmare began when he discovered what the alien scientist was doing to him while he slept. The alarm bells were screaming, so loud that Dr. Alex Rivera could barely think straight. Red lights flashed everywhere inside his small research ship as it spun wildly through space. He had been on a simple mission to Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, to collect ice samples for his lab back on Earth. What should have been a routine 3-week trip had suddenly turned into a nightmare. Come on, Alex muttered, his fingers flying over the control panel. The ship's computer kept repeating the same terrifying message over and over. Hull breach detected, life support failing, emergency landing protocol initiated. Through the small window, Alex could see Europa's icy surface getting closer and closer. The moon looked beautiful from space, all white and smooth like a giant marble. But right now it felt like he was falling toward his grave. His hands were shaking as he tried to steer the ship toward what looked like a flat area, but the controls weren't responding properly. The impact was worse than anything he had ever experienced. The ship hit the ice with such force that Alex felt like his bones were being rattled inside his body. Metal screamed against ice, sparks flew everywhere, and then suddenly everything went quiet. Too quiet. Alex opened his eyes slowly. His head was pounding, and he could taste blood in his mouth. The emergency lights cast an eerie red glow throughout the damaged cabin. He tried to move and winced as sharp pain shot through his left shoulder. Looking around, he realized just how lucky he was to be alive. Half of his ship was completely destroyed. Twisted metal and broken equipment scattered everywhere. But something was wrong. Very wrong. As Alex struggled to get out of his pilot's seat, he noticed that his ship had crashed into what looked like a building. Not just any building, but something that definitely wasn't human-made. The walls around him were smooth and curved, made of some kind of material that seemed to glow with a soft blue light. Strange symbols were carved into the surfaces, symbols that looked nothing like any language he had ever seen. "What is this place?" Alex whispered to himself. He managed to crawl out of the wreckage and found himself standing in a large room. The ceiling was incredibly high, maybe 30 feet above his head, and everything seemed to be made of the same glowing material. The air smelled different too, cleaner somehow, like it had been filtered through some kind of advanced system. As Alex took a few shaky steps forward, lights began turning on all around him. Not electric lights like he was used to, but panels in the walls that grew brighter as he moved. It was like the building was waking up, responding to his presence. That's when he heard the sound. It was a low humming noise, like machinery starting up after being asleep for a long time. The floor beneath his feet vibrated slightly, and Alex realized that whatever this place was, it was coming alive because he was here. Suddenly, a section of the wall slid open with barely a whisper. Alex's heart started beating so fast he thought it might explode. He had no idea what to expect, but it certainly wasn't what he saw. A figure stepped through the opening, and Alex's brain struggled to process what he was looking at. It was roughly human-shaped but taller, maybe 7 feet tall, with skin that looked like it was made of polished silver mixed with the palest blue. The being moved with incredible grace like it was floating rather than walking, but it was the eyes that really caught Alex's attention. They were huge, taking up a much larger portion of the face than human eyes would, and they were the most beautiful shade of deep purple he had ever seen. Those eyes seemed to look right through him, studying him like he was the most interesting thing in the universe. "Do not be afraid," the being said, and Alex nearly jumped out of his skin. The voice was clearly female, soft and melodic, but there was something strange about it. It sounded like she was speaking English, but Alex could tell somehow that she wasn't actually using her mouth to make the words. "You are injured," she continued, moving closer to Alex with that same flowing motion. "I will help you." Alex wanted to run, but his legs felt like jelly. What are you?" he managed to stammer. The being tilted her head slightly, a gesture that seemed almost human. "I am what you would call a scientist. My name translates roughly to Lyra, and you are human. The first human to reach this place. This place? Alex looked around at the glowing walls and strange symbols. What is this place? A research station, Lyra explained, stopping just a few feet away from him. Built by my people to study this moon and to watch for visitors from other worlds. We have been monitoring your species for some time, waiting to see if you would develop the technology to travel this far from your home planet. Alex's mind was reeling. Aliens were real. Not only were they real, but they had been watching humanity. How long have you been here? In your time measurements, approximately 50 of your years, Lyra said. Though I have only been assigned to this station for the last 10 years. She gestured with one long, elegant hand toward Alex's injured shoulder. You are bleeding. The atmosphere in this facility is safe for humans to breathe, but your injuries require attention. Alex looked down and saw that his shirt was indeed soaked with blood. The adrenaline from the crash had made him ignore the pain, but now it was starting to hit him full force. I need to contact Earth, Alex said, trying to think clearly despite everything that was happening. My people will be looking for me. They need to know I'm alive. Lyra's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes seemed to shift. That will not be possible. This facility operates under strict security protocols. No communications. Can leave this station without authorization from the Valeth High Council. The what council? Alex asked. But even as he said it, a cold feeling was settling in his stomach. My people, Lyra said simply. And I regret to inform you that according to our protocols, no unauthorized visitors can be permitted to leave until a full study has been completed. The walls around Alex suddenly felt like they were closing in. What kind of study? A comprehensive analysis of human biology, psychology, and cultural development, Lyra explained in the same calm, scientific tone. It is necessary for us to understand your species completely before any official contact can be made. Alex felt like the ground was falling away beneath his feet. How long will that take? For the first time, Lyra hesitated. That depends on many factors. But you should prepare yourself for an extended stay. As if responding to her words, more panels in the walls began to glow, and Alex heard the quiet hiss of doors sealing shut somewhere behind him. He spun around and saw that the opening Lyra had come through had disappeared completely, leaving only smooth, unbroken wall. He was trapped. Trapped on an alien moon, in an alien research station with an alien scientist who spoke of studying him like he was some kind of laboratory specimen. The reality of his situation hit him like a physical blow, and for a moment he couldn't breathe. But Alex was a scientist too, and scientists were trained to think logically even in impossible situations. He forced himself to calm down and really look at Lyra. She didn't seem hostile, just curious, like she genuinely wanted to understand him and help him, even if she couldn't let him go. Okay, Alex said finally, surprised by how steady his voice sounded. If I'm going to be here for a while, I guess we should get to know each other. Lyra's large purple eyes seemed to brighten slightly. Yes, I believe that would be beneficial for both of us. Alex had been living in the research station for 5 days now, and something weird was happening to his body. At first, he thought he was just imagining things. After all, being trapped in an alien facility would make anyone feel strange, right? But as the days passed, he couldn't ignore the changes anymore. It started with his sleep. Back on Earth, Alex was the kind of person who needed at least 8 hours of sleep to function properly. His colleagues at the research lab used to joke that he was like a grumpy bear if he didn't get enough rest. But here in this strange place, he was waking up after just 4 or 5 hours feeling completely refreshed. Not just okay, but actually energetic, like he had just drunk 3 cups of coffee. Then there was the cut on his shoulder from the crash. When he first arrived, it was a nasty gash that should have taken weeks to heal properly. Lyra had cleaned it and applied some kind of transparent bandage that felt warm against his skin. But when Alex checked it the next morning, he couldn't believe his eyes. The wound had already started closing up, and by the 3rd day, it was completely healed. Not even a scar remained. That's impossible, Alex muttered, running his fingers over the smooth skin where the cut used to be. His hearing seemed sharper too. He could hear the soft humming of the station's machinery that he hadn't noticed before. Sometimes he could even hear Lyra moving around in other parts of the facility, her footsteps so light they sounded like whispers. And his eyesight, everything looked clearer, more vibrant. The blue glow of the walls seemed more beautiful than before, and he could make out tiny details in the alien symbols that he had missed earlier. During the day, Lyra would spend time with him in what she called the observation room. It was a comfortable space with furniture that somehow adjusted to fit his human body perfectly, even though it was clearly designed by aliens. She would ask him questions about Earth, about human culture, about how his body worked. Alex found himself enjoying these conversations more than he expected. "Tell me about human emotions," Lyra would say, her large purple eyes fixed on his face with intense curiosity. "Your species seems to make many decisions based on feelings rather than pure logic." Alex would try to explain things like happiness, sadness, and anger, while Lyra listened with the focused attention of a student taking notes for the most important exam of her life. Sometimes she would tilt her head in that almost human way when something confused her, and Alex found it strangely endearing. But it was the nights that started to worry him. Alex was a light sleeper, always had been. Even as a kid, the smallest, noise would wake him up. So when he started having these deep, dreamless sleeps in the station, he knew something was wrong. He would go to bed feeling normal, and then suddenly it would be morning, like someone had just switched off his brain. For several hours. The first time he noticed something odd was on his fourth night. Alex woke up and immediately felt like something was different. His pajamas, actually just his old t-shirt and shorts, felt like they had been moved slightly. The fabric was arranged differently than how he remembered falling asleep. And there was a strange smell in the air, something clean and medical like the inside of a hospital. He sat up in bed and looked around his room. Everything appeared normal. The soft blue lighting was dimmed for nighttime, and he could hear the gentle hum of the air recycling system. But Alex's scientist brain was telling him that something had happened while he was unconscious. The next morning, he examined himself in the small mirror Lyra had provided. That's when he saw them, tiny marks on his arms. They were so small he almost missed them, like pinpricks from the thinnest needles imaginable. They didn't hurt at all, but they were definitely there. "Lyra," Alex said when she came to bring him breakfast. "Did you do something to me while I was sleeping?" The alien scientist paused for just a fraction of a second before answering. "I have been monitoring your health to ensure you remain in good condition. The atmosphere and gravity here are different from your home planet. I must make sure these differences do not harm you." "Monitoring how?" Alex pressed. "Non-invasive scans," Lyra replied smoothly. "Nothing that would cause you discomfort or damage." But Alex wasn't convinced. That night he decided to stay awake and see what really happened. He lay in bed pretending to sleep, keeping his breathing slow and regular like he had learned in his meditation classes back on Earth. It was harder than he expected. Whatever was making him sleep so deeply was fighting against his efforts to stay conscious. Around midnight he heard the soft sound of his door opening. Alex forced himself to remain perfectly still as footsteps approached his bed. Through barely opened eyelids, he could see Lyra's tall figure moving around his room with purpose. She was carrying equipment he had never seen before, some kind of device that looked like a tablet, but glowed with soft, pulsing light. She held it over his body, moving it slowly from his head to his feet. The device made quiet beeping sounds, so soft they were almost below the range of human hearing. Then came the part that made Alex's blood run cold. Lyra pulled out what looked like a small gun, but instead of a barrel, it had a thin needle at the end. She carefully lifted Alex's arm and pressed the device against his skin. He felt the tiniest pinch, so light he might have missed it if he weren't paying attention. But the worst part wasn't the needle. It was what happened next. Lyra pulled out another device, this one shaped like a small cylinder. She pressed it against the spot where she had just used the needle, and Alex watched in horror as it drew something out of his arm. Blood, he realized. She was taking his blood while he slept. Alex wanted to jump up, to confront her, to demand answers. But something told him to wait, to learn more before revealing that he knew what she was doing. So he forced himself to remain still, to keep breathing slowly while Lyra continued her work. She took several more samples from different parts of his body. Then she pulled out yet another device and held it near his head. This one didn't touch him, but Alex could feel a strange tingling sensation like static electricity dancing across his scalp. The whole process took about an hour. When Lyra finally left, closing the door silently behind her, Alex lay in the darkness feeling sick to his stomach. She had been lying to him. These weren't simple health monitors. She was conducting full medical tests on him while he was unconscious, treating him like a laboratory rat. But the more Alex thought about it, the more questions arose. If she was just studying him, why did he feel so much better than before? Why were his injuries healing so fast? Why did he have more energy than he had ever had in his life? The next day, Alex watched Lyra more carefully during their conversations. He noticed things he had missed before. The way she would pause sometimes, like she was measuring his reactions. How she would ask the same questions in different ways, as if testing whether his answers would change. The way her eyes would focus on his hands when he gestured, or on his face when he showed emotion. He was definitely being studied. But the question that kept Alex awake that night, even though whatever she was giving him made him want to sleep, was simple and terrifying. What exactly was she trying to learn about him? And what would happen when she was finished? As Alex lay in his bed, staring at the glowing ceiling and fighting the artificial drowsiness that was trying to pull him under, he realized that his situation was much more serious than he had thought. He wasn't just a guest waiting for rescue. He was a test subject in an alien laboratory, and he had no idea what the final experiment might be. Alex couldn't take it anymore. For 3 more nights he had pretended to sleep while Lyra conducted her secret tests on him. Each time the procedures became more complex and disturbing. She wasn't just taking blood samples now, she was using devices that scanned his brain, others that seemed to analyze his muscles, and some that he couldn't even begin to understand. On the 8th night of his captivity, Alex decided he needed to see everything. He had been practicing staying awake, despite whatever she was using to make him drowsy. It was like fighting against the strongest sleeping pill imaginable. But his determination was stronger than the alien chemicals in his system. When Lyra entered his room that night, Alex was ready. He controlled his breathing, kept his muscles completely relaxed, and watched through the tiniest gap between his eyelids as she set up her equipment. But this time, there was much more of it. She wheeled in a cart full of devices that hummed and beeped softly. Some looked like the scanners he had seen before, but others were completely foreign. There was something that looked like a helmet made of the same glowing material as the walls, and several devices with multiple arms that moved like mechanical spiders. Lyra started with her usual routine, taking blood samples and scanning his body. But then she did something new. She carefully placed the helmet-like device over Alex's head. Immediately he felt a strange tingling sensation, like tiny electrical currents dancing across his brain. Images flashed behind his closed eyes. Pictures from his childhood, memories of his first day at the university, his graduation, his first job at the research lab. It was like watching a movie of his own life, but he wasn't controlling what scenes were playing. Lyra was somehow accessing his memories, reading them like files on a computer. Alex had to use every ounce of willpower not to react. The violation of his privacy was overwhelming. His most personal thoughts and experiences were being examined by an alien scientist like data in a laboratory report. But that wasn't the worst part. After removing the helmet, Lyra pulled out a device Alex hadn't seen before. It looked like a syringe, but instead of being filled with liquid, it contained something that glowed with the same blue light as the station walls. She carefully inserted the needle into his arm and slowly pushed the glowing substance into his bloodstream. Alex felt it immediately. A warm sensation spread from the injection site throughout his entire body. It was like liquid energy flowing through his veins, making every cell feel more alive and alert. He finally understood why he had been feeling so much stronger and healthier. Lyra hadn't just been studying him, she had been changing him. The next morning, Alex could barely contain his anger. When Lyra arrived with his breakfast, he was pacing around his room like a caged animal. "Good morning, Alex," she said in her usual calm voice. "How are you feeling today?" "Cut the act," Alex snapped, turning to face her. "I know what you've been doing to me at night." Lyra's large eyes didn't show any surprise. If anything, she looked almost relieved. "You have been awake during the, procedures." "Some of them," Alex admitted. "Long enough to see that you've been lying to me this whole time. You're not just monitoring my health. You're experimenting on me like I'm some kind of lab rat." "That is not entirely accurate," Lyra said, setting down the breakfast tray. "Yes, I have been conducting detailed studies of your biology and psychology, but everything I have done has been designed to help you survive in this environment." "By injecting me with alien chemicals? By reading my memories without permission?" Lyra was quiet for a moment, then moved to one of the glowing panels on the wall. She touched it in a specific pattern, and suddenly the wall became transparent, like a window. Beyond it, Alex could see another room filled with equipment he had never imagined. Computers that seemed to be made of living light, tanks filled with bubbling liquids in every color of the rainbow, and screens showing data that scrolled by too fast for human eyes to follow. "This is my laboratory," Lyra explained. "For the past 10 years, I have been preparing for the possibility that a human might arrive here. Your species is unique in ways you do not yet understand." "Unique how?" Lyra gestured for Alex to sit down, and despite his anger, his curiosity as a scientist got the better of him. He sat on the edge of his bed while she remained standing, her tall frame making her seem even more alien than usual. "Most species in the galaxy follow predictable patterns of evolution," she began. "They develop intelligence, then technology, then either destroy themselves or achieve a stable civilization. But humans are different. You adapt to new environments faster than any species we have encountered. Your bodies and minds can change in ways that should be impossible." "What does that have to do with your experiments on me?" "The substances I have been introducing to your system are designed to accelerate your natural adaptability," Lyra explained. "Your body is learning to process our atmosphere more efficiently, to heal from injuries faster, to think more clearly in low gravity. I am simply helping along a process that would happen naturally, but much more slowly." Alex felt a chill run down his spine. "Why? Why would you want to change me?" Lyra was quiet again, and when she finally spoke, her voice was softer than he had ever heard it. "Because my people are coming to Earth." The words hit Alex like a physical blow. "What?" "The Valeth High Council has been debating for decades whether to make contact with humanity. Some believe your species has potential and should be welcomed into the galactic community. Others see humans as a threat that should be contained before you become too powerful." Alex's mouth went dry. "Contained how?" "Various methods have been proposed," Lyra said, and Alex could hear the reluctance in her voice. "Some suggest limiting your technological development. Others recommend relocating your species to designated worlds where you can be monitored. The most extreme faction believes humanity should be eliminated entirely." The room seemed to spin around Alex. He gripped the edge of his bed to steady himself. "And what do you believe?" Lyra turned away from him, looking out at her laboratory. "I have spent years studying your species from a distance, analyzing your communications, your art, your science. On paper, humans appear chaotic and dangerous. You fight among yourselves, you damage your environment, you make decisions based on emotion rather than logic. But," Alex prompted. "But now I have met one of you in person," Lyra said, turning back to face him. "And you have shown me that there is more to humanity than what appears in our reports. You are curious, adaptable, and capable of growth. When you discovered my experiments, you did not become violent or attempt to escape. You sought to understand. That is the mark of a truly intelligent species." Alex stood up and walked to the transparent wall, looking at the incredible laboratory beyond. So the experiments aren't just about helping me survive here. You're studying human adaptability to help decide what happens to my entire species. Yes, Lyra admitted. My report to the Council will influence their decision about Earth. If I can prove that humans can successfully integrate with alien environments and technologies, it will support the case for peaceful contact. If my experiments show that humans are incompatible with our civilization. She didn't need to finish the sentence. Alex understood. His performance as a test subject might determine whether humanity lived free, lived in captivity, or didn't live at all. How much time do we have? Alex asked. The Council expects my preliminary report in 30 of your days, Lyra replied. The final report will be due 60 days after that. Alex did the math in his head. 3 months to prove that humanity deserved to survive. 3 months to convince an alien council that had probably already made up their minds. 3 months to save his entire species. He turned back to Lyra, and for the first time since his crash, Alex smiled. Then we better get to work. Alex spent the next 3 days thinking hard about his situation. He was stuck in an alien research station with a scientist who was basically deciding the fate of all humanity based on how well he performed as a test subject. The pressure was enormous, but Alex had always worked better under pressure. Back at his lab on Earth, his best discoveries had come when deadlines were tight and expectations were high. The problem was that Lyra controlled everything about these experiments. She decided what tests to run, how to interpret the results, and what to report to her council. Alex realized that if he wanted to save his species, he couldn't just be a passive subject lying on a table. He needed to take control of the situation. So, Alex decided to fight back in the only way he knew how, with science. During their daily conversations, Alex started paying closer attention to how Lyra's equipment worked. When she would scan him with those glowing devices, he would ask innocent questions about the technology. How does this machine know what it's looking for? He would ask. What do these lights mean when they change colors? Lyra seemed happy to explain. Alex got the feeling that she didn't have many people to talk to about her work, and she enjoyed having someone who could understand scientific concepts. She would describe how her scanners could analyze human cells at the molecular level, or how her computers could predict how his body would react to different substances. What Lyra didn't realize was that Alex was memorizing everything she told him. At night, when she came to run her secret experiments, Alex would stay awake and watch more carefully than before. He started to understand the patterns in her work. She always used the same sequence of tests, always checked the same readings on her machines, always recorded her data in the same way. And that's when Alex discovered something interesting. Some of Lyra's equipment was giving readings that didn't make sense. On his 15th night in the station, Alex watched as Lyra ran a test that was supposed to measure his brain activity, but the machine kept showing results that were impossible. According to the scanner, Alex's brain was using 3 times more energy than any human brain should be able to handle. Either the machine was broken, or the alien chemicals Lyra had been injecting into him were having effects she didn't expect. Alex started to suspect that Lyra's experiments weren't going as smoothly as she pretended. The next day, Alex decided to test his theory. During their morning conversation, he began acting strangely. He would start sentences and then forget what he was saying. He pretended to have trouble remembering simple things, like what he had eaten for breakfast or what day it was. Lyra's reaction told him everything he needed to know. Her large purple eyes filled with concern, and she immediately began running additional tests on him. She kept asking if he felt dizzy, if he had headaches, if anything felt wrong with his thinking. "I'm fine," Alex would say, acting confused. "Why are you so worried? Is something supposed to be wrong with me?" That night, Lyra's experiments were different. Instead of her usual routine, she spent hours running brain scans and injecting him with new substances that made his whole body tingle. Alex could tell she was panicking, trying to figure out what had gone wrong with her perfect test subject. For the next week, Alex continued his act. Some days he would seem perfectly normal. Other days, he would act forgetful or confused. He made sure the problem seemed random and unpredictable, like his brain was slowly breaking down from her experiments. Lyra's behavior changed completely. She stopped asking him questions about human culture and instead focused obsessively on his health. She would spend entire days running tests, checking and rechecking her equipment, analyzing data on her glowing computers. Alex could see that she was getting frustrated and worried. Her perfect experiment was falling apart and she didn't understand why. But Alex's plan had a problem he hadn't expected. The more stressed Lyra became, the more desperate her experiments got. She started injecting him with stronger chemicals, running longer brain scans, using equipment he had never seen before. And while Alex was pretending to get sicker, he was actually starting to feel genuinely unwell from all the extra tests. After 2 weeks of this, Alex realized he had made a serious mistake. His plan to sabotage Lyra's research was working, but it was also putting his own life in danger. Some of the new substances she was giving him made him feel nauseous for hours. The brain scans were giving him real headaches. And worst of all, he was starting to worry that he might have actually damaged something important by confusing her experiments. Everything came to a head on his 23rd day in the station. Alex woke up that morning feeling terrible. Not fake terrible like he had been pretending, but really genuinely sick. His head was pounding. His stomach felt like it was full of rocks, and when he tried to stand up, the room spun around him like a carnival ride. When Lyra came to check on him, she took one look at Alex and immediately started running emergency scans. "Your vital signs are critically unstable," she said, and for the first time since he had met her, Alex could hear real fear in her voice. "Something is interfering with your body's ability to process the enhancement compounds." "Enhancement compounds?" Alex asked weakly. "Is that what you've been injecting me with?" Lyra was moving around the room frantically, setting up equipment, and preparing what looked like medical treatments. "The substances I have been giving you are designed to improve your body's functions, not harm them. But something has gone wrong. Your system is rejecting the treatments." Alex watched as Lyra worked, and he realized something that shocked him. She wasn't just worried about losing her test subject. She was genuinely concerned about him as a person. When she thought he might be dying, her scientific detachment disappeared completely. "Lyra," Alex said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I need to tell you something." She paused in her preparations and looked at him with those huge, purple eyes. "I've been lying to you," Alex admitted. "For the past 2 weeks, I've been pretending to have problems with my memory and thinking. I was trying to mess up your experiments because I thought that would help save humanity." Lyra stared at him for a long moment. Then, to Alex's complete surprise, she laughed. It was a strange sound, musical and light like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "You have been deliberately sabotaging my research," she said, and Alex couldn't tell if she was angry or impressed. "I'm sorry," Alex said. "I just wanted to protect my people." Lyra sat down on the chair next to his bed, her tall frame folding gracefully. "Do you know what this means for my report to the council?" Alex's heart sank. "That humans can't be trusted?" "No," Lyra said, her voice filled with something that sounded almost like pride. "It means that humans are even more remarkable than I thought. You have been living in captivity, undergoing medical procedures you did not understand, facing the knowledge that your entire species' future depends on your performance. And despite all of that, you found a way to fight back using intelligence and strategy rather than violence." She stood up and began gathering her medical equipment. "Most species, when faced with a situation like yours, would either submit completely or attempt to escape through force. But you chose a third option. You tried to outwit me." "Did it work?" Alex asked. Lyra smiled, an expression that transformed her alien features into something almost human. "Better than you know. You have just proven that humans can adapt, learn, and problem-solve even under extreme stress. That is exactly the kind of evidence I need to convince the council that your species deserves a chance." As Alex felt the immediate medical crisis passing, he realized that his relationship with Lyra had fundamentally changed. She was no longer just his captor, and he was no longer just her test subject. They had become something neither of them had expected. They had become partners in trying to save humanity. Alex recovered from his medical crisis over the next few days. and everything changed between him and Lyra. Instead of being a test subject, he became her partner in research. She showed him how her equipment worked, explained the data she had been collecting, and most importantly, let him help decide what information would go into her report to the Valeth Council. "Look at this," Lyra said one morning, showing Alex a screen full of data that looked like colorful waves flowing across a black background. "These are readings from your brain during problem-solving tests. Most species show steady, predictable patterns. But humans, your neural activity jumps all over the place." "Is that bad?" Alex asked, studying the chaotic-looking patterns on our... "The contrary. It is extraordinary," Lyra replied. "It means your brain can approach the same problem from dozens of different angles simultaneously. This kind of cognitive flexibility is incredibly rare in the galaxy." As they worked together, Alex learned more about Lyra herself. She had been alone on this research station for 10 years, with only occasional communications from her home world. She told him about Valeth society, where emotions were considered inefficient and individual thinking was discouraged in favor of collective decision-making. "My people value order and logic above all else," Lyra explained one day as they reviewed her research notes together. "But studying humans has taught me that chaos and unpredictability can lead to remarkable innovations." Alex could see that Lyra was changing too. The more time she spent with him, the more she began to question her own society's beliefs about how intelligent life should behave. But their partnership faced a major test when Lyra received an unexpected message from the Valeth Council. Alex was helping her calibrate a piece of scanning equipment when every screen in the laboratory suddenly lit up with the same symbol, a complex geometric pattern that seemed to pulse with urgent energy. "What's that?" Alex asked. Lyra's face went pale, her silver blue skin taking on an almost white tinge. "It is a priority communication from the High Council." She touched a control panel, and suddenly the room filled with a voice that sounded like multiple people speaking in perfect unison. The language was alien, full of sounds that Alex's human throat could never make, but somehow he could understand every word. He realized that the translation system in the station was allowing him to comprehend the message. "Research Station, Europa 7. This is the High Council," the voice announced. "Advanced fleet units report detection of human rescue vessels approaching your position. Accelerated timeline protocol is now in effect. Submit preliminary findings immediately for emergency council session." The message ended, leaving Alex and Lyra staring at each other in stunned silence. "Rescue vessels," Alex whispered. "Someone's coming for me?" Lyra nodded slowly. "Your people must have tracked your ship's emergency beacon. They are sending ships to find you." Alex felt a surge of hope so powerful, it almost knocked him over. After nearly a month of thinking he might never see Earth again, the possibility of rescue felt like a miracle. But then he saw the expression on Lyra's face and his joy turned to worry. "What's wrong?" he asked. "The Council is implementing emergency protocols," Lyra explained. "If human ships are already on their way to this system, it means first contact is going to happen whether we are ready or not. The Council will want to make a decision about your species immediately, based on whatever information I can provide right now." "How much time do we have?" Lyra checked her instruments. "The human vessels will arrive in approximately 6 of your days. I must transmit my preliminary report within the next 48 hours. Alex felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders again. Not only was his own rescue depending on what happened in the next 2 days, but the entire future of human civilization hung in the balance. "What do we need to do?" Alex asked. For the next 2 days, Alex and Lyra worked harder than either of them had ever worked in their lives. They compiled data from all of Lyra's experiments, organized video recordings of their conversations, and put together a comprehensive analysis of human adaptability and intelligence. But as they worked, Alex could see that Lyra was struggling with something beyond just the scientific data. "What's bothering you?" Alex asked during a brief break from their preparations. Lyra was quiet for a long moment, staring at the screens full of information about human biology and psychology. "I have a choice to make," she said finally. "I can submit an accurate report, That shows the remarkable potential of your species. Or I can submit a report that portrays humans as primitive and non-threatening. What's the difference? If I tell the Council the truth about human adaptability and intelligence, they may see your species as a potential rival. The aggressive factions will argue for immediate containment or elimination before humans become too advanced. Alex felt his stomach drop. And if you lie? If I downplay your capabilities, the Council may decide that humans are not worth their attention. They would likely classify Earth as a protected primitive world and forbid any contact for several thousand years. Your species would be safe, but you would remain isolated from the galactic community. Alex understood the terrible choice Lyra was facing: tell the truth and risk humanity's destruction, or lie and condemn his species to eternal isolation. There's a third option, Alex said quietly. What do you mean? Alex stood up and walked to the transparent wall overlooking Lyra's laboratory. You could help me escape. Lyra joined him at the window. The rescue ships would take you back to Earth, but what about my report to the Council? Tell them I died, Alex said. Tell them that human biology is incompatible with alien technology, and that I couldn't survive the enhancement procedures. Without a living human to study, they'll have no choice but to delay any decisions about Earth. That would buy your species time, Lyra admitted. But it would also end my career. Losing a test subject would be seen as a complete failure. Alex turned to face her, seeing the conflict in her large purple eyes. Lyra, you've spent 10 years alone on this station, following orders from people who have never met a human. But you know me now. You know that my species deserves a chance to grow and learn, even if we're chaotic and unpredictable. Sometimes doing the right thing means breaking the rules. Lyra was quiet for a long time, thinking through the implications of what Alex was suggesting. Finally, she nodded. I will need to damage some of the station's equipment to make the story convincing, she said. And I will have to alter the experimental data to show that the enhancement compounds were toxic to human physiology. Are you sure about this? Alex asked. You're risking everything to save people you've never met. Lyra smiled, that almost human smile that Alex had grown to love. I have met one of them, she said, and he has shown me that humans are worth saving. Over the next day, Alex and Lyra carefully staged his apparent death. They destroyed key pieces of equipment, altered computer records, and even created fake medical readings showing organ failure. Lyra provided Alex with supplies and a small communication device that would help the rescue ships find him. On the morning when the human vessels were scheduled to arrive, Lyra led Alex through corridors he had never seen before to a hidden exit, on the far side of the research station. The enhancement compounds I gave you will help you survive in Europa's environment for several hours, she explained as she sealed him into an emergency suit designed for his human physiology. Your people should be able to detect your location using this beacon. As Alex prepared to leave the station that had been his prison and laboratory for a month, he realized how much he was going to miss Lyra. What will you do now? He asked. I will submit my report stating that humans are biologically incompatible with advanced alien technology, Lyra replied. The Council will likely reassign me to a different research station, possibly in a system far from Earth. Will I ever see you again? Lyra hesitated, then reached into a compartment in the wall and pulled out a small container filled with glowing blue liquid. This is a supply of the enhancement compounds I developed specifically for human physiology. Your scientists will find them interesting to study. Alex understood. She was giving him proof that aliens existed, along with technology that could revolutionize human medicine and space travel. It was her gift to help humanity prepare for the eventual contact that would someday come. Thank you, Alex said, meaning it more than any words he had ever spoken. Thank you, Lyra replied. You have taught me that intelligence comes in many forms, and that sometimes the most valuable discoveries come from the most unexpected places. 3 hours after Alex left the research station, human rescue ships found him on Europa's surface. His story of equipment failure and a solo survival struggle was accepted without question. The enhancement compounds Lyra had given him were studied by Earth's top scientists, leading to breakthrough advances in medicine and space technology. And somewhere in a distant star system, an alien scientist submitted a report recommending that humanity be left alone to develop naturally, buying his species the time they would need to grow strong enough to face whatever the future might hold. Alex never forgot his month with Lyra, and sometimes, when he looked up at the stars, he wondered if she ever thought about the chaotic, unpredictable human who had changed.